Now we're going to move on and talk about a relationship between lines. Okay, two lines can be parallel if they have the same slope. So parallel lines we know are never going to intersect. Okay, so it could be something like that. We have parallel lines never going to intersect. Again, they're going to have the same slope. Okay, here's another set of parallel lines. All right, so let's look at the equation of two lines. Y equals 2x minus 4 and y equals 2x plus 3. These are two different lines, but if you notice, they have the same slope. They both have a slope of 2. So these two lines would be parallel. That is the only way for two lines to be parallel is if they have the same slope. Now let's talk about our two oddballs, our vertical lines and horizontal lines. All vertical lines are parallel. Well, I'm stating that because we know that a vertical line has an undefined slope. Okay, so it's not a numerical value, but I know that all vertical lines have an undefined slope, so they are all going to be parallel to each other. Okay, I also know that all horizontal lines have the same slope. They all have a slope of 0, so they're also all going to be parallel. All right, and then perpendicular lines, that's our second relationship. Perpendicular lines are going to have opposite reciprocal slopes. Now, here's probably what you're thinking. Perpendicular means they make a right angle. Well, that doesn't mean you have to have a vertical and a horizontal line. Okay, we could have diagonal lines that form a right angle. Okay, so again, perpendicular lines, two lines that intersect to form a right angle, are going to have opposite reciprocal slopes. So let's talk about what that means. Let's say I have the equation y equals 2/3 x plus 3. That's the equation of my line. A perpendicular line, again, would have an opposite reciprocal slope. So it would have y equals, opposite means opposite sign, reciprocal means flip. So it would be -3/2 x. And it could be, I don't know, plus 1. Okay, they don't have to have the same y-intercept. We're only looking at the slope. Okay, if the slopes are opposite reciprocals, then the two lines are perpendicular. Okay, and we know that a vertical line and a horizontal line are always perpendicular to each other. So let's write that. A vertical line is always perpendicular to a horizontal line. Okay, so these are our two cases. We have lines that are parallel, lines that are perpendicular, and if they're not parallel and they're not perpendicular, then we just simply say that they are neither. Example 11. Write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form that is parallel to 12x minus 2y equals -10 and passes through 2, 3. Well, notice in this example, we're not talking about vertical and horizontal lines, so we have to do a little bit more work. Okay, so first, remember that we want to write our equation in the form y equals mx plus b. All right, we're going to need to figure out what slope we're going to use and what the b is going to be. Okay, we need those two pieces of information to write our final equation. So they tell us in the problem that we are parallel to this line. We are parallel to 12x minus 2y equals -10. If I'm parallel to that line, that means that I have the same slope as that line. Well, when I look at this equation in this form, I can't look at it and tell what the slope is. I need to rearrange it, get it into slope-intercept form so that I can figure out what the slope of this line is. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and get the y by itself, isolate the y. So I'm going to do minus 12x. That's going to give me, make sure you don't lose this negative, -2y equals -10 minus 12x. All right, again, I'm trying to isolate the y, so I'm going to divide all of the terms by -2. And that's going to give me y equals -10 divided by -2 is a +5. -12x divided by -2 is a +6x. And then in my last step, I'm just going to rewrite it with the 6x first so that it's in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, so notice the only thing I need from this equation is the slope. Okay, so I'm going to use m equals 6 because it says it's parallel to that line. That means the line that I'm writing the equation for has to have that same slope. So back over here, basically they've given me the information that I want the slope to be 6 and I want to pass through the ordered pair 2, 3. So we go back to what we did at the beginning of this unit, and we're writing the equation in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So step 1, remember, was to find the slope, which we now have. Step 2 tells us to plug our point in and our m and solve for b. So that's going to give me y, which is 3, equals 6 times the x, which is 2, plus b. So 3 equals 12 plus b. All right, and I need to solve for b, so I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. So that's going to leave me with b equals -9. Okay, so my final answer, I have the slope that I want, and I have my b, my y-intercept. So my equation is y equals 6x minus 9. Example 12. Again, we're going to write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. This time, that is perpendicular to the equation -2x plus y equals 14, and it passes through the point 0, 0. Okay? So again, recall, if we're perpendicular to this line, then I need to first figure out the slope of this line. So I'm going to go over here. I have -2x plus y equals 14. I need to figure out what the slope of this line is. Well, again, in this form, I don't know what the slope is. So I'm going to isolate the y, get the y by itself. To do that, I'm going to add 2x to both sides. So it gives me y equals 14 plus 2x. And then I'm going to rewrite it in the order that I like, which is y equals 2x plus 14. Okay, y equals mx plus b. The slope of this line is 2. But if I want to be perpendicular to that line, I'm not going to use 2. I'm going to use the slope m equals the opposite reciprocal of that. Okay? So opposite means opposite sign, so negative. This was a 2 over 1. So if I find the reciprocal of that or flip it, I'm really want to use -1/2. Okay? So I'm really finding the line that has a slope of -1/2 and passes through the point 0, 0. Okay, so y equals mx plus b. Let's plug in what we know. My y is 0. My m is -1/2. My x is 0 also. And then I have plus b. I need to solve for b. 0 equals -1/2 times 0 is 0 plus b. So that gives me b equals 0. So I have my m, I have my b, so I can write my equation. So my equation is going to be y equals -1/2 x. Okay? You could write the plus 0 if you wanted, y equals -1/2 x plus 0, but plus 0 isn't necessary. So we can keep it simply as y equals -1/2